Hey YouTube, this is Chris down in North Carolina. I just changed out the starter on a 2006 Honda CRV EX and wanted to just give 2 or 3 very quick tips, the kind of things that really helped me out. The reason I changed the starter, it's got 211,000 miles on it. For the last couple months, it hasn't been cranking very fast, maybe 50 or 60% speed. It's been starting up, but very, very slowly. Definitely was not the battery. Trust me, it wasn't the battery. It felt like now the starter was about to go, so time to change it out. I'm a mid-level mechanic, low to mid-level mechanic. I've changed out brake pads, brake rotors, even a CV axle. So I'm a mid-level, just basic hand tools, no compressor or anything like that. It took me a couple days, just an hour and a half a day or so, probably about 4 hours altogether. If I had to do it again, I could do it in an hour and a half, but 4 hours for the whole job. Local shop wanted $250 to do the job. I had nothing to do this weekend, so do it myself, get the satisfaction. Anyway, let's get to that first tip. This is my big tip. If you take nothing else, do this. First of all, watch all the other videos so you learn what you're doing. My top tip, in one of the longer videos, the guy takes out, there's 2 studs. First, you're going to take this off, and on the manifold, there's a couple bolts, and there's also nuts on 2 studs. You want to take out those 2 studs. Don't just take the nuts off, take the studs out. Once you take the studs out, gives you a lot more room to be able to maneuver this manifold and get it out of there. If you get only one thing from this video, take out those 2 studs. Gonna help you a lot. As you're moving this manifold out, tip number 2, this thing's gonna kind of drop down a little bit and kind of come out this way. Let me get my shadow out of the way. So these black parts here, it's all one unit. It's going to kind of come out and come up there. You're going to have to wiggle and do one of these numbers. Now, as it's coming out, once you have it coming out, there's a little wire. There's a wire that's not connected to the manifold, but it's zip tied to it. It's a green zip tie down kind of underneath the manifold here. You'll see it once you start to take it out. You're just going to cut that zip tie, cut it free. That's what everybody does. But that zip tie is zipped to like a little tab on the manifold. There's like a little tab sticking out. Well, guess what? When that tab makes its way over to here and is starting to kind of lift out over here, there's you can't see it because of the shadow, but right here, almost at my fingertip, is a radiator hose. You want to have a buddy with you because that tab is going to get hung up on that radiator hose and not let you get it out. You need a buddy to be able to stand here and pull that radiator hose and kind of smush it down, kind of smush it out of the way. Don't have to unhook it, but kind of smush it out of the way as you're lifting this thing out. And once that tab clears, you're not home free, but that's 80% of the job. Get that tab past that hose, then you can just fight it and blah, 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 and it'll eventually come out. That's a great tip. Let me tell you how many connectors you have on this side. Electrical connectors on the right-hand side. You have 1, 2, a third one going into here, and a fourth one is a long one down underneath once you have this piece out. So 4 electrical connectors to disconnect over here. As far as hoses to disconnect, you have these 2 hoses right here. You have a hose just under here that's hooking into this, and then there's 2 hoses down under the throttle body. So 5 hoses altogether. Get your needle nose pliers so you can peel back the little hose clamps and all that kind of stuff. And then on top of that, you have one 10mm screw over here just to release an attached wire, like a mounting little bracket thing. But as far as electrical connections, we went over that, and the hoses, number of those. Hoses on the front, you just have 1 hose on the front here you're going to take off. Hoses on the side here, you're going to have the end of this hose, and then back up under here, you have a second hose, vacuum hose that you're going to unhook. So 2 hoses on this side, and for electrical connections, you can kind of see it there at my fingertip. There's an electrical connection there, and there's one more that's kind of under this black thing. It's right under that black thing. You can't really get to it until you're pulling the manifold free. Then you can kind of get to it, tight squeeze. All of these, I hate these electrical connectors. It takes me 5 minutes to get the thing off, but squeeze them. You kind of squeeze them, give them a wiggle. Maybe take a screwdriver in between at the very end of the connector, and you can twist it for a little bit of torque. That kind of helps it pop off, but you got to have a buddy or something also squeezing it in order to get it off. I hate those things. They're a pain in the butt, but there you go. 2 electrical connectors, 2 hoses. We went over the other ones. As far as the starter itself, have a cheater bar. I had a breaker bar, but I couldn't get the breaker bar in there at the right angle, but I could get a smaller ratchet and a cheater bar. I just used like a bar off of a mounting bar, it doesn't matter, but have some kind of bar you can hook on there to get a little bit of extra torque to get